dives into the last days of World War II leading up until Hitler's death. Since I have to get this information in, it was published by Henry Holt & Company in 2015. Since the story was split between the perspectives of two characters that couldn't be more different, I thought we should talk about him before we start. So General George Patton was a 4-star U.S. general and was feared by all of his opponents. He led the U.S. into the Rhineland and helped liberate it from Nazi Germany. He's a man who loved what he did and took great pride in being the best at it. He almost certainly would have taken over Berlin had he been allowed to. Adolf Hitler, on the other hand, is perhaps the most reviled character and villain in all of history. He grew up in Austria and joined the German army in World War I and became decorated for his efforts there. He killed 6 million Jews and countless others in his conquest of the world. But his health started to deteriorate towards the end of the war, but he always remained optimistic that the war could still be won. During the time this book was published, ISIS was becoming an increasingly growing threat to the world, and I believe this was one of the reasons that Bill O'Reilly decided to write this book, that seeing such evil prompted him to look into the minds of evil people to see what made them do evil things. This book was written from two perspectives, and Bill O'Reilly did a great job providing insight onto both Hitler and Patton's perspective of the war. It can be considered third-person omniscient because it manages to get inside the heads of both. The book not only covers the death of Adolf Hitler, but the fall of the Nazi regime as well. It follows different battles throughout the war, including the Battle of the Bulge and the conquering of Rhineland, and the Battle of Berlin. Much of the book takes place inside Hitler's underground bunker, where he hides out as the Allied forces close in on Berlin. In the bunker, he's accompanied by his mistress, Eva Braun, his dog Blondie, and his most trusted advisors. At the same time, the story shows how General Patton views these events. As Hitler is stuck inside his underground bunker, Patton is thriving, conquering the Rhineland, and bombing Berlin mercilessly. Hitler's health at this point was very poor due to the stress of war. He could not do simple routine tasks, and his hands would shake uncontrollably. He always remained optimistic that the war could be won, but eventually even he knew the war was lost. Determined to end the war on his own terms and not to let his body be defiled like that of Mussolini, he consumed a cyanide capsule and shot himself in the head. His mistress, Eva Braun, did the same, and his bodyguards were told to burn the bodies so there would be no evidence left for the Allies. I believe the author, Bill O'Reilly, did a great job of eliminating bias in the book. I'm sure it would have been very easy to exaggerate on Hitler's horribleness, but since he switched back and forth from Hitler to Patton's point of view, both sides of the story were showed, and that provided an interesting way to see the story. I believe the meaning of Hitler's last days was to educate people about events during World War II and how they contributed to Hitler's demise and the fall of the Third Reich. And providing a deeper insight into the decisions made by Hitler in the war really provided an eye-opening and educating way of thinking about it. I think Bill O'Reilly did a really good job of giving a new way of thinking about the war, and this helped get across the meaning of the book very well to the reader. He managed to see the war from both sides, and this differed from the way we learned about it in school, and showed many details that aren't well known to many people. I personally love this novel. I highly recommend it. It's extremely entertaining for a nonfiction book, and I especially enjoyed how the author switched back and forth from Patton to Hitler's point of view. This helped create great insights in the war and why these events occurred. And at first, it was extremely hard to relate to any of these characters because of how much larger than life they are. But as the book goes along, it manages to bring these characters down to earth by getting inside the heads of both. This book helped give me a new understanding of how the war played out on a more personal level. The way you learn about World War II normally provides a large-scale view of things and say this happened and this happened, but this book kind of gets inside the heads of both characters and provides why they happened on a more psychological scale. Overall, I was very impressed with this book, especially how the author was able to make a nonfiction book so entertaining. I'm going to be honest, I didn't start this book until 4 days ago. But once I started, I couldn't put it down, and it provided truly interesting insight on the minds of these historical figures. And I know I've been saying this the entire presentation, but I have to check off the box. It shows how Hitler and Patton view the war and their events and experiences of it. And it shows the same story, but from two contradictory points of view, which are almost completely different stories in themselves. So when one side is winning, the other side kind of struggling. After I finished this book, I was left satisfied with the story that I got. But after learning so much about Hitler's last days, I wanted to know how he viewed his first days of the war and his rise to power in his days of World War I.